So for the next sort of 25 minutes, we're going to do a talk entitled, Don't Be a Designer-saur, How to Avoid Creative Extinction. So I really owe you an explanation around this word, designer-saur. You might not have heard it before. Well, it's a blend of two words. You've probably worked it out. It's a designer and a dinosaur. When you push the two together, a portmanteau, you get a designer-saur. And that's really the idea behind this talk. Follow me on the social media during and afterwards. This was actually the alternative name for the talk. All My Friends Are Dead. Well, why is that? Well, how many mid-40s creative directors are left in the world? I don't know where they go. They go to the elephant boneyard to die. There's not many left. So which do you prefer, that title or that title? You prefer the first one, okay. Little bit of technical, I pressed the wrong button, apologies to me. So, let's make a start. It's a little gif here. So this talk is really about me, this little dinosaur chappie, who's running really fast, he's jumping, he's ducking, and he's working damn hard to make sure that he doesn't become disconnected and obsolete. And that's really the essence of this talk. I'd like to thank GoFest for inviting me here. They gave me two rules. One was, don't try and sell anything, so no credentials, case studies, and don't show any sizzle films or show reels. So you're not going to see a whole sequence of ads. You're actually going to have an opinion around something that I've developed over the last 5 years. So let's give some context to that. My name's Alasdair, and I'm a designer. So I'm more from a design industry than advertising, but clearly they're all blending and it's getting very messy coming together. And I've been designing and based in London for about 20 years now. And I started at a design company called Fitch as a young boy, and over the last 18 years I became the exec creative director there. And I have the best job in the world. I think Fergus would argue he has the best job in the world. I have a fantastic job. I spend my time traveling around all around the world, going to Fitch studios, so to Russia's and Middle East, Americas, and here in India. And it does my two passions, which is traveling and meeting people, and creativity. And what's really clear when I go to all our Fitch design studios, I was in the Mumbai one yesterday, was just how young the art directors, how young the designers are. And the creative technologists are about, oh my God, they're about 12, 13 years old at the moment. It's clearly becoming a very young person's game. Now, as I've just said, I am passionately want to continue doing what I do, but I want to make sure that I do not become obsolete. I do not want to become extinct. I do not want to become a designer-saur. So, I'm going to take you through 6 different stories, or 6 chapters if you like, and at the end of each one, you can just see everything's going to be kind of silly little GIFs today, animated GIFs. I think we've just heard that motion's important, yeah? At the end of each story, I'm going to have a bit of a conclusion or a bit of a learning, and those 6 actually start to become a creative manifesto. Now, we'll get to that, I promise, but the key point here is I've learned and gained an awful lot from these 6, but it's not just about me. Hopefully you will actually get something out of these creative manifestos, not just in the individual level, but actually on a collective level. I think this talk is really about how mature agencies can avoid extinction, because you are being massively disrupted by small startups. You are going to be so massively disrupted by clients, just as we've been talking about, who are actually doing their own creative in-house. The tsunami wave coming your way is going to be pretty hard. So let's hopefully engage, and we'll get something out of it. Now, each of these 6 chapters, you may have already worked it out, they're themed, because we like a good theme because we're creative people, they're themed around hypothesis of how dinosaurs became extinct. So it sounds a little bit abstract at the moment, but I'm sure we'll work it through, yeah? These are the 6 chapters. So, volcanic eruption, number 1. We've all heard this. There was a massive volcano explosion, kabooma, when we weren't expecting it, hot lava flow, and it killed through all the dinosaurs, killed life, started the Ice Age, yeah? That's theory number one. And really, and as the previous speaker was just saying, the volcanic eruption in our creative industries has been all the tech innovation over the last 3-5 years. And what's going to happen over the next 5 years is going to be more change than the last 50 years put together. So it's clearly galloping on from analog design or analog creative to digital to mobile to social to 360 to VR and you know, clearly the buzz at the moment to roll around AI and artificial intelligence. So it's moving at an extreme rate. And I think there's a real danger that a lot of people my age and a lot of you guys and ladies can get left behind. And that's really one of the dangers. So I actually had a bit of a life moment about 5 years ago when this sort of penny dropped happened. And I was like, shit, I really could become out of a job here. And at that point, I thought there were two ways that I could go, which is one is exit the creative industries, no longer be a creative director, pursue another passion, let's say it's becoming a chef, or maybe I had to go really tech and learn how to code and really get deep dive into the technology. And for the next few years, I really kind of wrestled with this kind of tension of where does kind of a mature creative go in this fast-moving agency world? And interestingly, a new kind of the third way came through, which coincidentally is about this understanding around the art and the science. And creativity and agency going forwards isn't purely about the old school art of creativity. It's also about the combination of the tech, the plumbing, the algorithms, and all of that Fergus was just talking about. And there was a bit of a penny drop moment for me. So well done, Google Analytics. It's a few years old, but it still resonates today because it's all around. Imagine if you did design a store and it was totally driven by purely the science. That's the kind of nightmare, unempathetic, unhuman experience that come out of it. So really about great creativity going forward is this balance of art and science. However, you still have to constantly be learning, not just your own skills, but the business, the whole agency needs to be moving forward. So my first principle is start again and again. So albeit you may be very good at what you've always done for the last 15, 20 years, you actually have to think of yourself as kind of naive child and keep learning and keep learning. The second theory of how dinosaurs left this world was that they starved to death, all the food ran out. And this slightly weird GIF, I think I stole it off Facebook actually, of a brain eating itself. Really the parallel here is if agencies stop feeding themselves and the creative departments with inspiration, they can die very quickly. Now, process is good. It can keep us slightly on track. But when you become a bigger studio, a networked, moving at great speed, process can start to take over and your work can start to become formulaic. And obviously, we all know that we can change up process different which ways to mix it up to get something else. But that's not really the point here. Short story, I was doing some appraisals, individual appraisals with some young creative people in the agency. Annual appraisals. And there was something common that was being said through a number of them. They were saying, I'm just really struggling to get enough headspace. It's moving so quickly, I can't really think enough. I'm just feeling like I'm really suffocated. And, you know, we can't change the pace of work because that's relative to the industry and our clients. So what else could we do? So I put something in place, and I would almost recommend the agency leaders to do something like this. We created a thing called inspiration passes, and these are essentially giving 3 days extra holiday to everybody in the agency. I think this could work in other businesses as well. And when I say everybody, that's creatives, planners, account, even the financial team. Everybody gets 6 half-day tokens, which is essentially permission to go out of the agency on a weekday and do something that's nothing to do with their brand, the category or their competitors. This isn't about auditing. It's going to do something totally stimulating. So it could be go to the zoo, go and parachute, go to Goa Fest for the weekend, go and do something really, really stimulating. And, I really had to fight my FD on this, because he's like, well, that's a cost center. That's really, we're not going to get that back. But actually, the upside is on morale, on people become stickable, retention staying with us, and also the quality of the creative has really benefited by letting people go and actually be inspired and work time. And one of my key rants is, inspiration isn't about going on YouTube and going to a couple of trend blogs in the morning. It's about actually doing some really, really tangible things. So, my insight is really individually and as collective, you have to be constantly curious and keep pushing that. And that really should be a culture running through the whole business. The third theory of how dinosaurs died was that mammals ate their eggs. So before they hatched, they were eaten. Now, not eaten by humans, I hasten to add, because humans weren't around at that point. Nothing to do with boiled eggs, but I think this really starts to go into talking about young, creative talent. One of the most inspiring things I've done, and this was my inspiration pass, I go and work in art schools and universities and work with young creatives who've yet to be polluted by the complexity of agency life, of clients and commerce and time and politics and all that bullshit. They're not constrained by it, and it's massively inspiring. But it shouldn't be just about going to universities and art schools. What I'm talking about here is that agencies should be working with the undergraduates, creating intern programs and graduate programs. And that, to be honest, is one of the strengths of my studio, Fitch, is that nearly all the senior, really kicking it creatives have come from undergraduate to graduate all the way through. So it is a medium to long-term investment. It's not a short hit, but that is actually how you keep your business really fresh with really high-end creatives. So a bit of an abstract photograph there of the baby and some dude with the old man. So to contrast what I've just said, I've been very fortunate in my career that I've had two mentors, two people who have been older than me, who have achieved great business success, creative success, and every now and then I have kind of conversations and meetings with them, and they'll answer my questions, they'll challenge me, they'll be critical, but they'll share their wisdom and give me some guidance. And I recommend everybody should have at least one mentor in their professional life. And I'd say that should be somebody outside the agency or the company you work in, and just keep close to them through your career. But here's the thing, my mentors are actually starting to get quite old now. I wouldn't say less relevant, but they're at a different point of their career. And I would recommend here that you should also have raw mentors. So that's not about hanging out with Gen Z, 19-year-olds in your agency. But this is about really spending time, if you're a mature person in an agency, with those young guys. And it's really about understanding their philosophy, understanding their values, their personal human values, understanding their social values. Because most of us in this room, I imagine, are Gen Y, millennials, and X's. And it's invaluable that we learn and spend time. So that's the next principle, is be an apprentice to both wise and raw mentors. Raw being young and unpolished. Now, this rather hypnotic GIF, you may remember it a few years ago. It was a meteor, enormous meteor that flew over Siberia and Russia and caused a massive crater. We all know the disaster films that this plays through. And when they land, boom, they cause massive destruction. And my real kind of parallel here is that I have to remind myself not to be the meteor inside our agency, the negative meteor. The negative meteor is charging into everything, going into brainstorms and think that I know all the answers or my idea is the best, talking over other people, or bullying. And I'm going to drop the E word now, and the E word is ego. It's prevalent inside our creative industries, and it's an ugly thing that we have to fight. So a key point here is not to be the meteor, or the negative meteor, inside your agency. Personally, I've to fight my own growing ego, I've really had to engage with my own emotional intelligence. And I'm going to compliment you all by saying science proves that people in the creative industries actually have a higher emotional intelligence than nearly any other professions or industries. That's a truism. But here's the thing, most of us don't engage it enough. And it's one of the most important things you can have. And if my gang were with me today, they'd be going, Alasdair, all you do is talk about emotional intelligence. Why? Because I actually think emotional intelligence is actually almost more important to cerebral intelligence. I really do. Now, in an agency life, daily it comes through. So when you're with clients and presenting, it's not just what they're saying or writing. You're reading every visual aspect of them, all their body language, all their internuances, all the eye contact. And when your emotional intelligence is really engaged, you can actually distill what is going on. And when you have that ability, you can then change what you're doing, your behavior, to move it in a better way. And it's a very powerful tool. So if you're presenting something, and you know that you've got 20 boards and we're going to start here and we're going to tease the idea and reveal it over here, and you kind of feel that the room isn't working, you kind of feel that they're getting a bit twitchy, maybe turn the presentation around, present the work and then show the logic behind it. Maybe stop and start having a conversation. Emotional intelligence is massively important, really decoding what clients actually feel, not just what they're saying in a corporate way. Inside a creative studio, emotional intelligence is one of the, I keep saying, so important. And creative directors, the old joke used to be that we only move things left or right on the screen or made the logo bigger or smaller, left or right, bigger or smaller. But in actual fact, I think it's about creative directorship, it's about stepping forward and stepping back. There are times when you need to be a real leader and show confidence, authority, saying to your gang of people, in actual fact, I think it's more that direction than that direction. Or when people come to you with lots of choice, how you can make decisions. And that's when you step forward and have to be a leader. But actually what I've learned and developed over the last few years is the emotional intelligence around when to actually step backwards, when to listen to my team, let them actually present, let their ideas come forth, and actually support them and give them the gravitas in the room. And it's taken me a long time to get to that, but I really believe emotional intelligence is enormously valuable. You could almost put a dollar sign next to it. So as you see this GIF, the ice caps, or the temperature drops a few degrees, the ice caps build, glaciers start coming over continents, the dinosaurs died. That's the fifth theory of how dinosaur life was wiped out. And what's amazingly today, when I listen to and read, is that there's still lots of people in this world who don't believe that there's a climate crisis or there is climate change. They're so stubbornly focused, they're so tunnel-visioned in not accepting what is an absolute truth. So really, my point around here is it's around stubbornness and being too focused and being too tunnel-visioned towards a vision. So I kind of said that I wasn't going to show any case studies, I'm not, but I'll give you one anecdote. About 8 years ago, I worked with let's just say a North American computer company that now do digital watches. For all legal and contractual reasons, I can't say their name or show you the work, but just imagine if they were based in California and they were building new circular headquarters in Cupertino, and they like the color white, yeah? Can I lead you any further down the line? If you don't know who they are, you should leave, really, frankly, yeah? So I was working for them, and they're a very special company to come from, and at that point they had their iconic leader. And for 6 months, I was doing the dream design project for them in absolute secrecy in a warehouse in Cupertino. And as a young designer, I was just like, this is it. This is what I've been born to do. And I was so focused around creating the ultimate solution to to their brief. And their brief was around creating a new type of store. Not this photograph, but let's imagine it was very white. And the anecdote is, on the day that we were presenting the prototype to the great and good of that organization, it was all built in a warehouse, totally secret squirrel. They brought in all their latest technology that they were going to sell and merchandised it. And one of those was a newfangled laptop that had an optical mouse. So it was the first time I'd actually seen an optical mouse that didn't have a cable. And that was cool, because we'd been designing the retail that all this was going to be presented on. And funnily enough, the design was extremely white, and the surfaces were made of this material called corian, which is essentially an artificial white marble. And I had the most heart-stopping, career-defining moments when I was just about to do a demonstration to the senior board, and I put the optical mouse down on this surface to demonstrate how our design worked. And the horror of horrors when I realized that an optical mouse wouldn't work and couldn't work on the material that we'd specified. So it was a shocking failure, and we worked around it, but it was very humiliating at the time how we had got it wrong. And it really bugged me for a couple years thereafter on, how the hell did I get that so wrong? And the answer was, I would have been so tunnel visioned towards the vision, the creative vision, I'd ignored some truth that were happening along the way. And what I've learned to develop is this idea of being stubbornly flexible. And what this isn't is about compromise of, I say this, you say that, so we create something that's a bad compromise. This is about getting to your vision, but the flexibility in getting there and thinking in a more agile way. Relief. We've got to number 6, and I quite like this one. The key theory how dinosaurs died is that their bodies were too big for their small brains. So here we go. We managed to get Homer Simpson on stage at the Goa Fest with his small brain. And we all love Homer. You know, he's yellow, likes beer, fat, but also extremely lazy. Laziness is the absolute devil of mature creatives and creative agencies, and you have to fight against it. And not uniquely, but I'm an absolute fan of the theory of hard work, hard work, hard work. The founder of Fitch, the late Rodney, died about 20 months ago, managed to get this short film where he just talks about hard work.
Three principal tenets of business are experience, knowledge, and hard work. And I think that experience trumps knowledge, but hard work trumps experience. And as a young guy, I came from a poor family. I had no advantages. And I spent every weekend working, and every daylight hour working. If I wasn't playing cricket, I was working. I was cleaning cars, I was doing this, I was gardening, I was doing that. And I learned from a very young age that if you wanted to get anywhere, then you had to work harder than the next person. And that next person might be cleverer than you, they might know more than you, they might have had more experience than you. But if you worked harder, the boss always preferred you. So I think working hard, there's no room for being a slacker in the modern world. There wasn't in the old world. It certainly isn't in the modern world. So I think, what do I learn? What would I suggest? What do people need to know? They need to know that they've got to work hard.
So a very wise man, and clearly he was one of my mentors. And when he talked about hard work and creative agencies, that's not about drudgery. That's about hard work, being curious every day. Hard work, inspiring people. Hard work, working hard on your emotional intelligence. He was an absolute believer. One of the key statements he said was, and this is a genuine quote, be sure to draw something every day. Now, I think if you're in an ad agency, design, UX, or on a Facebook creative team, be sure to draw something every day, albeit technology is going through the roof at the moment. Hold that tight, hold that real. And personally, every day I live and work, at some point this thought comes through my mind, and I find it awesomely inspiring. So here we are. We've got to the creative manifesto to avoid extinction. So let's just remind ourselves what we've gone through. Start again. Be constantly curious. Be an apprentice to both wise and raw young mentors. Really turn up your emotional intelligence. Be stubbornly flexible. And be sure to draw something every day. Now, I've been writing, getting clarity and collating this over the last few months on planes and kind of the quiet moments in between projects and pitches. And I've actually found it very cathartic doing it, because I've actually got to this this clarity of these 6, and it helps me. But what I'd like to think is, in a small way, it may help you individually. So if you're a mature person in an agency, or I'm very glad to see there's a lot of young people here, and how I'm very impressed that GoFest have given great value tickets to encourage young people to come to these sort of conferences. Hopefully you can take something away from this as you build your careers as well. And as I kind of started, the real danger of big agencies everywhere, including India, is the disruption that's going to come along so quick and so hard. And if we don't adapt and change, we will all become extinct. So albeit these are personal, I actually think these are kind of principles that big agencies should take on board as well to keep relevant and nimble. So we're just about to go in a Q&A stage, so hopefully you've thought of some questions. Please do.
Slowly getting ready for the grand evening and all. So, maybe a bit of motivational to all of us to say that we are still not dead, because, we feel very nervous when we hear like dinosaur and we're going to get extinct and all. So, do you think that, we're going to die, we've got some more years left?
I think if we adapt, if we, really the whole thought there is, we feel very confident because what's worked well before, we think will work in the future in our behavior, and that won't work. So we absolutely have to change individual skill sets, teams, and organizations. So it is really adapt or die. I mean, it's very pertinent that the talk with Facebook was how they're starting to build agencies inside. The biggest thing in the UK at the moment is every organization building their own in-house creative teams. So when I pitch, actually, I'm pitching against the in-house team, other agencies, and amazingly, some in-house teams for other brands are pitching to win work for their, not the competitor, but in a similar area.
Sure.
So it's true. We have to adapt or die.
Sure.
And none of us want to become a dinosaur.
No, so, the questions are of very varied. We'll try and take something which is a bit more, let's say, interesting, or something which, kind of have some different answers. So there's something which has come in from a gentleman called, Shaumita Banerjee. You mentioned about hiring fresh talent like graduates and undergraduates, but most of the time they're not able to convert a brand's problem with an ideal creative solution, maybe because of their lack of experience and the way they work, but they're very talented, right? What do you do then?
It's a very real situation. I did say at one point, graduates, it's about the medium and the long term. There are no short-term wins. So if you think you can employ people and there is a team and they're cheap as chips, they will fail, and they'll fail really quickly. So it's really more about putting a program in place and a commitment from the whole C-suite of the agency of how you build talent. I think there's the other responsibility is to become provocative to the educational side of things as well. And it's our responsibility to work with universities and art schools and educational bodies and be very candid and say, look, you guys are not giving us what we need. Maybe you should be not telling them how to do their jobs, but saying, we're looking for these type of skills of graduates. And maybe they can start to develop their courses or new courses. I do kind of feel that education is lagging behind the speed of change on the client side.
So I guess the question had maybe a deeper meaning in the sense that I'm sure the environment is also not getting ready people, and when we are hiring them, we are facing that same challenge, so maybe the process has to start much earlier.
Yeah.
So the adaptation, what we are saying in the work scene or whatever, has to start much earlier, right? That's what
Absolutely.
I guess.
And I think that ties into that idea of having mature and raw mentors, having young people, that they're actually the true lifeblood of the agency.
So here's one more. This one is from Arthi Menon, Walt Disney. Print to TV to on-air to mobile phone to digital, social media. Do you think that the speed at which technology is advancing, the audience may not need advertisers anymore, making all of us obsolete?
Big one. I think subjectively, I think the word advertising will die. I really do.
You think so?
The word will die. Yeah.
What will it be?
It's going to be just around experience and conversations. And I think that builds into what Fergus was saying as well. And I'm not a naysayer, I'm not a negative guy here. Creative agencies have absolutely got a very strong life. But I think, that just the idea of above the line to cross-channel is not the way forward.
You're staying back in the evening, right?
Sorry?
You're going to enjoy the evening party?
Yes, I've been invited.
No, just checking, because there are a lot of creative people here, lots. So I'm sure they're all waiting to have many conversations with you.
No, that's what it's about. I do want to come here with a message of everything's good, let's just carry on. I'm very much an advocate of innovation and moving our fantastic industry forward.
So this one is, I'm not sure whether you have an example, but Apurva from Star India, give us an example of any inspiration that you got from Indian culture, lifestyle, or nuance in your life or whatever you've done. Anything from the Indian culture you've ever picked up?
Well, it's interesting. I was working the other day and working for a bed linen, one of your largest bed linen companies.
Okay.
I'm going to say the name. It's Wellspun.
Oh, yeah?
And they have spaces.
Yeah.
And I was learning around how Indian culture, how your bedrooms have a key part of the house and how visitors and guests are there to see it. And that's a very different culture to, say, a Northern European Protestant, to contrast Fergus culture. And that was massively insightful, and we were using that to actually talk about how a brand like that can go international and take that culture and that spirit to other cultures as well. So I really don't think that it's around Western cultures being brought in. I think it's actually about those sort of insights that we can empower brands in other markets as well.
So was it something very different from whatever you picked up across? Was the client and all, was the working relationship and all smoother? Did you find it difficult to explain all the
I work
technology?
in all markets, so I'd work in developing markets, underdeveloped, first world, everything in between. And I can assure you that wherever you are, you have great clients, okay clients, and shit clients. So it's not relative to geography, it's really to the quality of the marketeer. So I don't see any difference here in India, to answer you directly. I think it's a mixed bag. And as part of our responsibility as agencies is to give 360 feedback to our clients and hopefully get them to be better. Because you only do amazing creative work when you have an amazing client. If you're dragging the client up the hill behind you, you'll never do that sensational piece of work. It is absolutely about collaboration.
So maybe one last question. It's not complete, but I'll see if I can complete. It's from Abhimanyu from TIC. It says aesthetics, data, copy, idea.
Yeah.
What is your order of importance and why?
Aesthetics, copy.
Aesthetics.
Yeah.
That's design or whatever.
Yeah.
Data.
Yeah.
Which is what we all are talking.
Yeah.
Copy.
Yeah.
And basic idea?
That's really good. Good question. I'm going to change it round just to be awkward. I'm going to say I see creativity through a slightly different lens, which is the physical, the human, and the digital. And great, compelling experiences, let's call it advertising, is a combination of when you physically make an interaction with the customer, when you digitally engage with them, and maybe through a person-to-person as well, through the human dimension. So I work through the lens of the PhD, the physical, human, the digital, but absolutely the idea drives that. But what informs the idea? It's the insight. And a lot of the insight is, yes, it's from digital analytics, but it's also about human observation as well. So data, human observation is the insight, create the idea, and then you deliver it through different touch points.
So it's all hand in glove.